Happy afternoon, my friends. I am so excited to be here today with Malia Hollowell from Play-Doh to Play-Doh. Welcome, Malia.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to chat about learning how to read and how we can use music and movement and work together so that we can really help teachers understand what does it look like, how to make it even more fun. So in the end, we end up with literate people who go into this world and enjoy all that language has to give. So today we are going to be going through our training, and it is called Igniting a Love of Reading Through Music and Movement. So Malia and I will be sort of taking turns talking throughout our different talking points. And then during the training, if you have any questions that pop in your mind, go ahead and pop it down below, and we will just check in once in a while and answer any of those questions that you have, or of course you can always send us an email. But we are excited to be here today. So let's go ahead and start. We're going to jump right in with our slides. Okay, so we are going to start with a fun little activity. So I'm going to show you a picture, and I hope I don't make you guys too hungry, but here we go. Strawberry shortcake. It's springtime. That means we probably all should be thinking about making some strawberry shortcake. So my poem goes like this. Start to keep the beat on your legs with me. Strawberry shortcake, banana cream pie. If my words rhyme, jump up high. Here we go. Are you ready? Okay, remember, so if my words rhyme, you can jump up high, but you don't have to. You can even just wave your hands. Okay, here we go. Cat, hat. Yes! Okay. Big, hot. No. Big, twig. Yeah! Log, dog. Yes, awesome. All right, you got the idea. And that's just a fun little game to get kids starting to hear rhymes in words, but to do it in that fun, playful way by bringing in this little poem that you can do all sorts of different ways. You could even do this when you're lining up, when you're, getting ready for lunch, or anytime there's a little extra moment there. It's a good one when you need to get the wiggles out. And we're going to hear soon from Malia about why this is so important. But today you will learn how to get kids ready to read with music. Now, I'm going to talk about this elephant in the room, and if you're watching this training, perhaps you have already dealt with this elephant and he is not sitting on your chest and feeling what this elephant tends to feel for a lot of people. So what happens is in our society, unfortunately, we have been told that if you are not a great singer, then you should probably leave singing to the professionals. And it's kind of sad to think about. Some people who have actually told you this could be your mother, your father, a teacher. And I am here today to let you know that when we talk about the benefits that music and movement can bring in getting kids ready to read and really just enjoying learning in general, I hope that you can start to look at that elephant in the eyes and say, you know what? There are so many benefits that I'm going to get over that part because I'm not actually using music to be a performer or to even be thought of as some great singer. I'm using it as a tool. So hopefully by the end of this training that we have together, you will not be feeling that. Now, during our time together, if you want to grab the notes, you can go ahead and just grab that little QR code right there. That's a fun way for you to check out what we are going to present today. There might be a few extra things as well. All right. So today we are going to be talking about, oh gosh, who's this? This is a little extra thing too. So if you happen to see this, this is just another quick little reminder of who I am and what we're doing. But I want to also make sure that if you did not get a chance, I wanted you to just be reminded of the million reasons why you need music in your classroom. Instant engagement ignites all parts of the brain, and it gets kids ready to learn. But I'm going to turn it over to Malia as we get a question that we need to complete. Here we go, Malia. Tell us what's going on this slide.
Well, thank you again for having me. I am so excited that we get to hang out together and talk about literacy and music and how they can really support each other. I like to think of them like peas and carrots or macaroni and cheese. They're BFFs. And when we use them in our classrooms, they help each other. They help students learn to read and write. They help students become musically minded. And so they really work in partnership. One of the first things I want us to do is complete this sentence. Teaching reading feels blank. And I put a note here that says this is for your eyes only, because I have had the chance to ask this question to thousands and thousands of teachers around the world. That's what I do all day, is work with teachers just like you all. And so when I ask this question, the list of answers I get can sometimes be really painful, and it can feel really scary and vulnerable, because I have teachers saying to me, teaching reading feels hard. Teaching reading feels complicated. Teaching reading feels impossible. So if you are in that same boat, if you would complete that sentence with any of those words or any number of other words that really just communicate that teaching reading is tough or difficult, I want you to know that, first of all, you're not alone. And my hope in our time together today is that you will be able to complete this sentence very differently at the end of our time together, because you're going to feel more confident, you're going to feel more empowered, and it's going to be really fun, because Jocelyn is a genius at making learning to read fun and musical. And that's what we get to do next. So Jocelyn, you want to jump in with your game?
All right. So with this activity, it is a parachute game. So since we're on the screen, we can't all get our parachutes out and have all the fun. So this is going to take a little bit of imagination. So everybody, we're going to get a big old parachute out. And I will warn you, when you get the parachute out, many teachers will be dusting their parachute off. Malia, I don't know if that was what the case was when you were in the classroom, but not many teachers have the I don't know, the guts to take the parachute out. It can be a little bit scary. But today, what I want to tell you is we're going to do a really fun little activity with the umbrella. We're actually going to do a couple that we're going to kind of imagine what it looks like. And when you do the parachute, I will advise you to kind of talk through the activity first before doing it, before actually getting the parachute out. That sort of, once you get it out, sometimes it can just be hard for them to focus as much. So for this one, I'm going to stop sharing for just a minute so that you can see what we've got. All right, so we'll take the parachute out, and very slow motion right there. There I am. Peekaboo. So with the parachute, we're going to take it and we're going to squeeze it in our hands, and we're going to sing a song called Come Under My Umbrella. So imagine we're walking it around, and honestly, the first time I do it, we literally do not have the parachute in our hands. So we're pretending, okay? So we walk around as we sing, Come under my umbrella, 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 come under my umbrella, it's starting to rain. Now we're gonna shake it with thunder and lightning and thunder and lightning. Stop. Come under my umbrella, it's starting to rain. On the count of three, we're gonna lift it up. We're gonna bring it back underneath us, and we're gonna sit down on it. And if it works out, we're gonna end up with an umbrella over our head. So we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, lift it up, pull it back over your head, and sit down. All right, now once they have that kind of, they've tried it without the parachute, go ahead and get it out. And then with the parachute, there's like usually little loops on there. If you have a bigger class, there not going to be enough loops for everybody. So just kind of prepare them for that so you don't have any meltdowns. But go ahead, they grab a loop, we make a big circle, and then boom, you just go right into that song. You're walking around singing, come under my umbrella, 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 come under my umbrella, it's starting to rain. Where's thunder and lightning and thunder and lightning? Start walking. Come under my umbrella, it's starting to rain. We're gonna lift it up. 1, 2, 3, pull it back behind you, sit down. Now, once you're inside underneath this umbrella, they will be fascinated. So when they do that, you want to capture that moment and say, I might sing something like, rain, rain, go away, come again another day. And then I'll say, did it stop raining? And that is setting the tone and keeping the energy calm. Someone reaches out their hand, we'll check to see if there's rain. Oh, it stopped? Okay, let's get out. Just by having that quiet voice kind of keeps that energy down. We get out and we do it again. I usually do that about 3 times. So another one that you can do, which is really fun, is to take that same idea of the parachute, and it's just holding it. Oh, we're flying to the moon, we're flying to the moon, oh what an adventure, we're flying to the moon. And we stop and we count backwards from 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off, lift it up, pull it back behind you, sit down. You should be in your spaceship. And then I do a quiet like this. Inside the rocket ship, is there enough room? And they'll say, yeah. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Zoom! And I get out. We all grab our loops and you start it again. Again, 3 times. All right. So, my friends, that is actually getting kids ready to read. Oh my goodness. All right. So let's jump in back into our slides and we're going to find out what is next. All right, so getting kids ready to read. So Malia, tell us, what do we need to know now?
Well, there's a lot that we need to know. Obviously, Jocelyn showed us how easy it can be to make this entire process really fun for kids. And the good news is when you understand how students actually learn to read based on the research, based on brain-friendly teaching, it makes your job as a teacher so much easier because you are not having to try and teach the same thing 10 different times because the first time it didn't work and the second time it didn't work and the third time it didn't work. You're just getting results the very first time. And so everything we're talking about today is based on brain-friendly teaching. And what we're going to start with in terms of my end is giving you a bird's eye view at what this whole process looks like so you understand why these chants and these songs that Jocelyn is teaching you are actually helping create the foundation students need in order to learn how to read. So it might feel like there are a lot of steps that you have to take to get kids ready to read, but the good news is your job is to focus on the very first one. That is all you have to do. You, because you are early elementary teachers or pre-K teachers or toddler teachers, you just have to focus on the very first steps. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, when we think about how we have evolved as humans, if we were to get on that spaceship that Jocelyn was describing and we blasted into the past and we went back a million years, we would see humans walking around on the planet looking very much like this picture. Well, maybe not, but we're going to pretend. I always think about the Flintstones when I think about this.
Yeah.
Because we would have cavemen, cavewomen wandering around and they would be grunting and pointing and communicating with a very basic language. And that means that over this last million years, our brains have had the chance to develop and learn how to communicate through spoken language. So we can actually take a baby that's born today, right now, in this minute, we can plop that baby in the middle of a household, and the baby just has to listen to the people around it speaking, and it will learn on its own how to understand what people are saying and how to communicate back. So we like to say that babies are able to catch spoken language. It's caught, it's not taught. We don't have to sit down and say, Mama, 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 put your lips together. Open your mouth. Put your lips back together. We don't have to do that. The baby just figures it out on its own. It's caught, not taught. Now, when it comes to teaching reading and writing, that is a skill that is relatively new. It's only been around for a couple thousand years. So when we have this baby today, right now, and we put it into the middle of a room, unless we teach that baby how to read and write, they're not going to learn how to read and write. They don't come pre-wired with all of the brain connections that they need in order to be able to do that. So that means your job as a teacher is to help them build those connections. And everything we're doing today is going to do that. But again, I want to make sure that you understand what's happening so you are able to confidently talk about this with your team teachers and with your school administrators and with your parents. So everything we're going to talk about is we're going to focus just on that foundational level of skills, the very first things kids need to learn when they are learning how to read and write. And all of these skills, I like to think of them like building a house. These are skills that we can do with our eyes closed because they're just based on listening. All we want to do at the very beginning is help our students hear the sounds and words. Because when they can hear those sounds and words, then they're going to be able to connect those sounds much easier. So when we talk about hearing parts of spoken language, like k, at, or d, g, when we take a word and we break it apart into sounds, what we're doing is something called phonological awareness. And I have a trick that's going to help us remember this term. Phonological starts with the word phone. And if we were on a phone, this is an old school telephone. So if you're 20 years younger than me, you may not have ever used one of these. But when we are on the phone, we are hearing someone talk to us. So when we are practicing phonological awareness, we are hearing parts of spoken language. Phon and phone sound very similar, and they both have to do with hearing. So when we're practicing phonological awareness, we're really focused on hearing sounds and words. And this is really an umbrella term. So it covers a lot of different skills, actually 5 skills in particular: sentence segmenting, syllable segmenting, rhyming, alliteration, and phonemic awareness. And we're going to talk about each one of those one at a time. But just so you have a good idea of what you should be teaching in your classrooms, it's helpful to know that phonemic awareness, that last one on that list, is our goal for children who are between the ages of 4 to 5. We want them to have strong phonemic awareness skills going into kindergarten, ideally. So when we think about all of these phonological awareness skills, you can think of it like a pyramid. And so when you think about our phonological awareness skills and you think about that bottom layer, that's the biggest part of our pyramid, the biggest section. So that's where we're going to be focusing on the biggest parts of words. Going up one layer, we have syllable segmenting. So now we're going to be focusing on slightly smaller parts of words called syllables. The next one is rhyming. We're going to be focusing in just on the ending parts of words to see if they rhyme. The one above that is alliteration. We're going to be focusing in on an even smaller part of the word until we get to the top, which is phonemic awareness. And we'll talk about that and how those small parts can help us learn how to read. But let's start with sentence segmenting. And just a reminder, this is that bottom of the pyramid. So this is where we're going to focus on the biggest parts of words. And the biggest part of a word is a word. That's it. That's as big as it can get, right? The whole dang word. So if we were practicing sentence segmenting, we would be taking a sentence, I can read, and we would be segmenting or cutting it into parts. I like to think of this like taking a long Play-Doh snake, and we're going to break it apart into 2 parts. So I is one part, can is the next part, and read is the last part. We have a sentence and it has 3 words. We're segmenting that sentence. So let's practice. Let's do just a couple of practicing activities. And Jocelyn, will you take this over for us so we can do your I can clap activity to practice counting words?
Yes, I will. I didn't mean to do that. Yes, I will. All right, so let's try this one. So we're going to do one, and it's just going to be 1 syllable words, and it goes like this. I can clap up high. I can clap in front. I can pat my legs, touch my ear, and jump. Let's try it again. I can clap up high. I can clap in front. I can pat my legs, touch my ear, and jump. And I remember, Malia, one time I was listening to you in a training, and it really made such great sense because you were talking about how when we hear another language that we don't know as adults, let's say, if I were to go down to Mexico and, I really want to learn Spanish, and maybe I do know some Spanish words, but when they start talking so quickly and I don't have enough vocabulary at that point, I can't tell where one word starts and the next one ends. And so that's such a big piece when it comes to sentence segmenting, is also having that vocabulary, which is kind of something we want to keep in mind, precursors that get to this moment. So when we think about the baby or we think about the toddler and we getting them into that place where they're ready for sentence segmenting, they don't just show up one day having never heard a spoken word and just know, how to pick those words out. So that's why it's also so important that we create that language rich environment for them. So they're getting to hear all these words, and now they're 4, 5, 6 years old, and now they're ready to play with those words. And that's again why we just want to fill them up with lots of different words. And songs really do such a great job of doing that. So let's try another one. This one's pretty popular, and it's Higglety Pigglety Bumblebee, can you say your name for me? There's lots of different variations on this one, but it is pretty common. If you're doing the letters training, this is the one they use a lot. So the Higglety Pigglety Bumblebee, can you say your name for me? And it's just playing around with them hearing the words, and it doesn't really matter, but the whole idea is your focus as an educator is, again, those segmenting that we're doing of those words so that they can really start to hear it. And again, it's just about making sure that they're hearing the language over and over. So now, Malia, let's jump into what is syllable segmenting. Tell us about that.
Yes, well, this is actually my favorite phonological awareness skill. Don't tell the rest of them, but I actually love this one because it's so fun to take a word and break it apart into its syllables. So every syllable has a vowel sound in it. If you were actually to, those recordings, Jocelyn, where you can see the audio, the lines for the audio recording. Okay, if we were to take a word and we were to record it that way and map it out, what we would see is that every time we said a vowel sound, that there's a spike on that line. And so what we want to do is help students hear those vowel sounds, hear those spikes in the word, because that's going to be how they know where those syllables are going to be. It's like a group, a little chunk of the word that has a vowel in it. If we had the word butterfly, butterfly, that has 3. Elephant, elephant. So when we're segmenting these syllables, all we're doing is, just like before, we have a string of Play-Doh and we're just breaking it into parts. So we're breaking apart these chunks now. Now, the very best way I found to do this, if you're just using your voice, is to actually tap the beats out on your body. So I like to tap the first syllable on top of my hand, the second syllable on my elbow, the third syllable on my shoulder, and then the fourth one would go on top of my head. So if we had a word like helicopter, helicopter. If we were doing peanut, peanut. We're just tapping the syllables on our body, and kids' favorite thing to tap is their name and their classmates' names. They just think it's hilarious and fun. So you can have them do their names, their classmates' names. You can practice this when you're in line to go to lunch, or if you have 3 of those very awkward minutes before recess where you just want to keep them engaged before they run out the door. This is a great activity to do. But I know, Jocelyn, knowing you have other activities for us. So what would you also recommend using music?
Yeah. And actually, honestly, this is where music shines, because so what happens in music is when we sing a song, we break the words up into syllables naturally because that's what creates rhythm. So when we have a song and we look at the lyric, happy birthday to you, it's already being broken up into those chunks naturally. And so that also gives, and we can slow down the song, we can speed up the song. And even if we go back again and we go think about our babies, what we're doing with them, when we do something called mother ease, father ease, parent ease, whatever that, the term that we're using there is when we talk really in that cute little high voice, oh, you're so cute, oh, you're so sweet. Well, that's actually a predecessor to being able to chunk words to read and write. That helps children to speak. So it helps because when we do our, let's just call it motherese, because I'm a mother, we're slowing down the language. And when we do that, we're also adding naturally a little melody to it. So, oh, baby, you are so cute. So I start to do that. And again, they're starting to hear, not with their eyes. I'm not typing it out on a piece of paper so that they can read "You are so cute." It is about the ear. So we always want to kind of keep going back to that one. So this today, like I said, music shines with this. This is a fun one to do where we can take some fun words apart. And since we're in spring right now, this one might be a fun one for you to add. So I always keep the beat. So the beat and the rhythm are different since we're talking about beat and rhythm. So beat is going to be steady, okay? Now rhythm is always changing, like dinosaur, bat, bat, dinosaur. I'm creating different rhythms. Some are short and some are long, where beat is always the same, like your heartbeat, okay? So let's make sure that we're helping you with classroom management too. So all you're going to do is take your hands and you're going to keep the beat like this. And we're going to have the words go over the top of the beat. Every bug has a rhythm in its name. Let's hear how it sounds in our bug rhythm game. All right, here's the first one. Can you figure out how to break this word apart into a syllable? How many syllables? All right, you got it? Okay, B. How many syllables in that one? Just one. So all we need to do is tap our hand. We go back to that lovely diagram. Remember, we've got the hand, the arm, the shoulder, and the top of the head. All right, let's try another one. Now in this picture, you'll see that those hyphens actually broke the word apart for us. But remember, we don't need to be showing them these words at all. Instead, we want to really think about the idea that all of this can be done with our eyes closed. So let's try this one. Ladybug, ladybug, ladybug. How many syllables in that? 3. And the next one we have is caterpillar. Ooh, that one's a big one. Caterpillar. Try it again. Caterpillar. All right, let's see. We might have one more bug that wants to show it. No, it's done. So Malia, in this, I just want to talk real quickly, just so that we can really understand, go a little bit deeper into terms of why is it that breaking these words up like this will actually help a child decode it? Why does that help?
Great question. There are a couple of reasons. So number one, what we're doing as we climb up that pyramid is we're having students, we're building the brain pathways they need, the ability they need in their brain to be able to hear smaller and smaller parts of words, because eventually we wanted to get to that top of the pyramid. And when we get there, we can hear the individual sounds in words. So again, that's where that cat, at is. So we're kind of helping students narrow in and focus in on those individual sounds. The other benefit to this is that when they get older and they're able to read bigger words, they're going to start reading, it's called multisyllabic words, which just means it has multiple syllables. So a word like caterpillar or a word like elephant. And in order for them to be able to read those words really effectively, they need to be able to break it apart into chunks so that they can, take the word elephant and read L and keep that in their brain, and then go to the next syllable and know that is the next sound, and keep that in their brain and keep chunking it together. So there's both a short-term benefit and a much longer-term benefit.
Awesome. All right, let's climb up the ladder. What's next?
Okay, so next one, we're moving up that pyramid. So we have rhyming next, and this is probably the one that you're most familiar with. We have Dr. Seuss books. We have rhymes in pretty much every song, including Taylor Swift. So you probably hear rhymes all day long. And that's good because it means this is going to probably come pretty naturally to you. So rhyming is really just looking at the end of a word. So if we have cat and hat, they both end in the at sound. So we could have a very short word like cat and hat that we're comparing, or we could have much longer words like baseball bat, I guess. Well, that's not really one word, but my point is it's just the end of the word. So we're just focusing on the end of the word. We're not worrying about the beginning. So when we are practicing rhyming, that's what we're going to be focusing on is the end. And I know, again, Jocelyn, you have a million rhyming activities we could do, but what do you want us to practice first?
Yeah, and again, this is another opportunity where we know that music really does shine because our brain loves rhymes. It hooks onto it. And when we're thinking about poems or chants or these songs, a lot of them are built with sort of the same sort of formula. And sometimes that might be, the second line, last word rhymes with the fourth line's last word. So we start to kind of have our ear tuning into where's that rhyme gonna land. So this one is called Tapping at the Window. It goes like this: tapping at the window, tapping at the door. That's so funny. I know this song so well, and this chant, now I start thinking about it. I'm like, how does it go? Tapping at the window, tapping at the door. Let's all stand up when we count to. What do you think? What is a number that rhymes with door? Door. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we stand up. Tapping at the window, tapping at the door. Let's jump up and down when we count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Jump, 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 jump. Now we're just going to continue that. So what happens is music also shines in this way because that repetition that is so needed for children to master a skill, it becomes a playful experience. So, just imagine having to go tapping at the window, tapping at the door. Let's all stand up when we count to 4, and I'm not doing anything. It'd just be like, okay, well, you just repeated tapping at the window, tapping at the door. I'm bored. But when we add that little extra movement at the end, we're taking what we want them to do, but then we're adding that element of play and physical play, which is even more interesting and more exciting and more likely that our brain will want to participate, retain that information, and recall it at another date. So again, we're really thinking about this multi-sensory approach to literacy. So that's where, again, music is really happening. And if you go back to those notes that, and I'll give you that again at the end of this training, but you can get the recording for this one, and it's a really fun one. Again, we're just repeating those 2 lines. They all rhyme with 4, but then we're adding in a movement at the end. Okay, here's another one, and this one's fun because we talk about kids being all sorts of different ages, and everybody wants to tell you how old they are and what the letters are in their name. And so that is where we need to, as teachers, go, oh, that's important to you. I'm going to take that and I'm going to use that to teach. So this one goes, when I was 1, I had some fun going over the sea. I jumped aboard the pirate ship and the pirate said to me, going over, going under, stand at attention like a soldier with a 1, 2, 3. So now listen to it. When I was 2, I tied my, shoe going over the sea. So what happens there again is where we need to call upon that vocabulary bank. Because if children haven't heard, a story or haven't had anybody talk to them about tying their shoe, then those might not be words that pair together for them, especially if they're learning language like English and then it's not their first language. We can't expect them to even have a bank of words that are going to be fantastic contestants in order to rhyme. So again, go back. And that's why when we have our babies, when we have our toddlers, we need to be singing, we need to be rhyming. When this moment comes up, now they've got all those words and they can put them into action. So when I was 3, I bonked my knee or whatever. When I was 4, I closed the door. So it's just a fun way for them to capture, okay, how old are you? And then we bring a rhyme in with it. So that is just a couple examples of ways to bring in rhymes. All right, we're going up the pyramid. What's next?
Well, Jocelyn, I have a question for you because I'm thinking about all of the things that could go wrong with this. And I know for me, you have such a beautiful voice, and I often get a little intimidated about singing in front of my kids. It's just not my favorite.
Yeah.
So can we do these same activities with chants where we're not using a sing-song voice, we're doing it more as words with a beat and a rhythm?
Absolutely. So for this one, all you need to do, you do need to remember that it does still have to have that rhythm feel to it because that actually helps us to break the words up. But all you're going to do is, when I was 1, I had some fun going over the sea. I jumped aboard the pirate ship and the pirate said to me, Going over, going under, stand at attention like a soldier with a 1, 2, 3. So when you are going to speak it rather than sing it, you still do need to consider that you're keeping the beat and your words need to have that rhythmic feel to it, because the way that rhythms work is they have to fit within these certain like sort of boxes. So if I were to just go, when I was 1, I had some fun and was going over the sea, it's not so conversational. Like, like we're going to talk back and forth. But when we think about chanting the words, we want to make sure that you're really feeling the rhythm and how to separate it out. So be sure if you are going to chant it that you do practice it ahead of time. And it even goes for when you're reading books. And the author has in their mind that they want the cadence of the book to be a certain way. Read the book beforehand. I was just reading a book. I'm just going to grab it here real quick. I was reading this book. It's called Hush Little Rocket. And I don't want to not screen share here because I don't want to mess up our slides. But this one's called Hush Little Rocket. And so I know that it goes to the tune of Hush Little Baby. Don't say a word, Mom's gonna but this one, it's kind of tricky because it's hush little rocket, don't make a bleep, we're heading home now, it's time to sleep. And I got to some of the lines and the sun, it doesn't line up as well. So you got to really make sure that you're reading it ahead of time and planning it, because the sun's long flares shoot up so high and you yawn and stretch with a sleepy sigh. Okay, that one worked out well. But some of these other ones, like as I was reading it through, it's like you have to time it just right. And of course I can't find it. Turns slowly round like a little snail. That's a little cumbersome. It turns slowly round like a little snail. So I've got to read it a certain way in order to stick with the rhythm that was intended. So again, if you were going to chant it, perfect. But in order to still get the value that the music gets from it, you do want to make sure that you have done it ahead of time so you know where those rhythms fall within those boxes.
Well, and I love the reminder, Jocelyn, too, to tap it on our bodies.
Yeah.
And as you said, I think even for me as an adult, that would help me keep the beat.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
also, there's so much value in terms of the multisensory learning, because we know research has shown they've done brain scans and seen that when we actually can feel something, like we feel ourselves tapping on our knees,
Mhm.
and then we're hearing the words and we're seeing our teacher and our friend tap the rhythm on their knees too. Now we have our body, like our feeling sense, we have our hearing sense, we have our visual sense, and that means that multiple parts of our brain are being activated at the same time. And it's kind of like having a house and turning on the kitchen light and the bathroom light and the living room light. And now all of a sudden the house is bright from the street when you look at it, rather than one tiny little bathroom light that is in the corner of one room. So yes,
Yes.
I just love that reminder.
Well, and the other thing that brings up is a reminder of the connection that has to occur when the information comes in through the ear, and then we are processing it in a motor form, because this is motor. And so just think about all the brain activity that's happening when the sound comes in. I then have to, it comes in a little sound envelope. My brain has to process it. And then I have to keep that beat. So there's some interesting research out there on what we call auditory beat synchronization. And that's the idea that when we are hearing music, it has a beat. Every music has beat. When we can actually listen to that music and then start to find the beat and keep it, that processing point is the same thing that's happening when we are processing spoken language. Now, researchers have argued that music processing in the brain actually came before language processing. What's interesting is they use the same parts of the brain. So when we can start to tap into this, what's been really an interesting finding is that children who do have quick auditory beat synchronization, they're able to sync up to that beat, they're more likely to be great readers, because that processing part of their brain is actually very developed. And the great news is It is something that can be worked on. So in your classrooms, I encourage you, play with different types of songs, turn on different music and see who can find the beat the fastest. Don't tell them that you're doing that because you don't want to ever make anybody feel bad. But instead, find, different ways to play with the beat. Turn on fun music, turn on Disney, turn on, whatever the popular songs are right now. And you'll know that you're actually working that muscle. All right, are you ready to move on? Alliteration.
I am ready.
Okay.
Okay, so alliteration is, remember now we're climbing up one more step on our pyramid. So instead of focusing at the end of the word where we were comparing the ends of two words with rhyming, cat and hat, now what we want to do is switch our focus to the beginning of the word. And we're just listening for the very beginning sound. So moon and monkey, those both start with the sound. So they are an alliteration.
Yep.
I know, again, you have a million ideas for this. So Jocelyn, can you give us one?
Yeah. So there's, my Bonnie lies over the ocean. Okay, so that one's a really fun one because we can really have kids cue into that beginning letter sound that happens a lot throughout that song. So, my Bonnie lies over the ocean, my Bonnie lies over the sea, my Bonnie lies over the ocean. So bring back my Bonnie to me. So a couple different ways that you can play with that is, find again, if you don't feel comfortable singing it, that's okay. Find a recording of it. And every time you hear the B sound, stand up or sit down depending on where you're at. So, my Bonnie lies over the ocean, we're up. My Bonnie lies over the sea, we're down. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. So bring back my Bonnie to me. Now, what you could also do with that is change the sound. Instead of buh, let's see what else. Malia, what would be another fun one we could do instead of my Bonnie?
What if we did
Oh, my Bonnie lies over the ocean. My Bonnie lies over the sea. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. So bring back my Bonnie to me. Ming Mac. Maybe we have to change all the B's to M's. Ming Mac, oh Ming Mac, my mom. Okay, that could be silly. But you know what would happen? I bet they would laugh. And that is what we need to always remember is that we want to keep this learning really engaging and really fun. And again, if we're going back to the very beginning, what we have to have in order to learn language is a bond. So that is why also that we're always talking about making sure that as an educator, you're enjoying what you're doing. Kids don't learn from teachers that they don't like. And that is so important to remember. So make sure you're having fun. Don't get so serious with this that we lose that element, because when we lose that element, we lose the learners. And we don't want that to happen. So that's why we need to keep it fun. We need to keep light. We need to keep that positive experience with it so that we don't make kids feel yucky and then they don't want to participate. All right, so our alliteration. So we're moving on and we did my Bonnie, the top of the pyramid.
We made it. We made it to the top. Okay, so as you were noticing, we're getting to focus on smaller and smaller word parts. So phonemic awareness is our smallest word part. It's just the individual sound in words. And research has shown that phonemic awareness is actually the most important out of all of those phonological awareness skills between sentence segmenting, syllable segmenting, rhyming, all of them. This is really the most important because, as we know, in order for students to be able to read and write letters and spelling patterns, they have to be able to hear them first. So we want to help students hear those individual sounds. Now,
Yes.
when we talk about phonemic awareness, it's important for you to know the lingo. And I know sometimes when you're teaching that it can feel like vocabulary stew because there are just so many of these big words floating around out there. And I never want you to feel like you don't understand what it means. So when I'm talking about phonemes, I'm really talking about individual sounds. And when we think about the words cat, k, at, it has three phonemes. The word dog, d, a, g, has three phonemes. The word ship has four letters, S-H-I-P, but when you say those sounds, sh, ip, It only has three sounds, so it only has three phonemes. I wanted to use this as an example because a lot of times when I talk to teachers who are new to this, they can get confused between letters and sounds. And remember from the very beginning that what we're focusing on here is just our foundation of skills. So we don't want to connect those sounds to letters quite yet. We're just focusing on hearing the sounds and being able to move them around in different ways. So at this point, pretend that you don't know letters, pretend you don't know how to spell or read, and just think about the sounds you hear. So you can even close your eyes and just think shh, it had three sounds, so I know it has three phonemes.
Hmm. I like that. Okay, give us a few more examples of activities that we can do to foster phonemic awareness.
Oh, there are so many. And the great news again is you can do all of this through spoken language. So one of my favorites is to take a word and give kids a challenge. So I will say, okay, I'm thinking of a mystery word and I'm going to give you the sounds and I want you to put your finger on your nose when you know what the word is. S, n. Put your finger on your nose if you know what that word is, and then have them all say sun. And then you give them another word. How about the word fog? Put your finger on your nose if you know what that word is. Fog. So you're doing the opposite. Instead of giving them a word and having them break it apart, you're having them hear the broken apart word sounds and putting them together to read a word.
Oh, I love
And
that. I love that.
yeah, and I'll give you one more. There again, we could go on forever, but another fun one is to have them take a word, like the word sun, and swap out one sound. So take the s in sun and change it to f. What's the new word?
Fun.
Fun. Or if we wanted to take the d in dog and change it to l, what's the new word?
Log.
Dog. So you're swapping out all of these individual sounds, which is again a chance for us to play with words. And kids get really excited because you can just call them mystery words and it suddenly becomes a game.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about a song. It's called A Hunting We Will Go, A Hunting We Will Go. We'll catch a frog and put him on a log and then we'll let him go. And that's a fun one to do where you can actually take your visual and again, you don't even have to have the word written down underneath. Does it matter? Can we put the word on the picture or what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, you can put the word on the picture, and especially if you have English language learners, that is actually really helpful for them because, again, to the example you gave earlier about hearing a foreign language, if you're flipping through the channels and land on the Russian channel and you're just listening to these characters talking and you have no idea where one word starts and ends, if you are able to turn on the captions on that, now all of a sudden you can start to see where words start and end. So
Yeah.
if you have a visual picture of a frog and it says frog, your English language learners or even hard of hearing students will be able to focus in on that much easier.
So tell us, what is the most common deficiency in children who struggle learning to read?
Anemic awareness. And this is when we're talking about this, we're talking about, for example, dyslexia. So 20% of students, 20% of humans on the planet will have some form of dyslexia. And that is obviously going to impact how quickly and easily they can learn how to read and write. So we want to do everything in our power as teachers to give them the tools and the foundation they need to be successful. Building phonemic awareness is it. That is where the magic happens. We know research has shown us when students have strong phonemic awareness, it helps them not struggle nearly as much if they do happen to have dyslexia. So your work every single day, all of the activities that you're doing, all of the songs you're singing and the chants you're practicing are helping with this, and they're really setting your kids up for a lifetime of success.
So, you happen to put all your information, what's this, into a
Yes.
book?
I have a book, yes. So it's called The Science of Reading in Action. And I also have a website called Plato to Plato. So if you are interested in digging into this more, I would love to connect with you. You can find me on Instagram at Plato to the number two Plato, and send me a quick DM. Let me know that you watched this, and I'm excited to connect.
Yeah. So I know you've got a fun little freebie. Tell us about this and how it's going to help kids get ready to read. What's this thing? What's going
These are called Elkanin sound boxes. I believe the inventor, the last name was Elkanin, and I want to say he was Russian. I may be wrong about that, but so these are sound boxes, and what they essentially do is they help students with a visual tool that they can use to actually learn to separate those sounds. So in this word dog, we know it has three phonemes, d, a, g. Well, if students want to do this and act it out, they can use these are little erasers, mini erasers from the Target dollar spot. You
on?
can use rocks from the playground. You can use pennies. You can use anything, but have them slide one of these into each of those sound boxes each time they hear a different sound. So d goes in the first box, ah goes in the second box, g goes in the third box, and then they slide their finger down on that arrow and blend those sounds together. Dog. So this is going to give them that visual reminder about what sounds are in that word, and then give them the hands-on manipulatives to actually help their brain connect those sounds to something that will eventually become letters.
Awesome. Well, we're coming to the end, and we have this sentence that we pondered at the beginning. So, Malia, would you like to ask them to complete it?
I'm hoping your answer is different now. Tell us how reading feels now. And I'm hoping, I know, Jocelyn, you probably have this same hope and wish. If we could be your fairy godmothers and give a magical spell, wave it over the screen right now, we would hope that your answer would be something like teaching reading feels fun, teaching reading feels magical, teaching reading feels exciting, because
Yes.
it really is. And hopefully you've seen here that you don't have to worry about having to have a million complicated PowerPoint slides. It really can be as simple as teaching kids to play with chants, teaching them fun rhymes, teaching them songs, and letting them just enjoy the process.
Yeah. And I just think that there's so much confusion out there when we are seeing childcare centers promoting, their classrooms by having 3-year-olds sitting down with this workbook and they're tracing their letters, and this continual boring things, and we didn't talk about that once. So I think that is something important to point out, is that unfortunately the information that is out there coming from certain places, maybe coming from parents who see those commercials and they're wondering, well, why isn't my child coming home with these worksheets? They're 3, I want them to be getting ready to read. But when we go back and we look at the science of reading, that's actually not the path. Nothing needs to actually be seen. It's about spoken language. It's about listening. It's about talking. It's about really being able to manipulate the words by listening first, and then will come the ability to read and write those words. So let's make sure that we are all getting out there and letting people know what the order is, and not to put the cart ahead of the horse. Let's keep the cart back here, and let's keep the horse up here.
Well, and Jocelyn, you're making me think too about how, when we've been doing things for a million, well, not a million years, when we've been doing teaching reading through workbooks and flashcards, and I know that's certainly the way I learned,
Yeah.
but it took a long time for us to learn how to read. And for a lot of students, they never became confident readers. We know the research has shown that 65% of fourth graders right now in this year today are not actually reading at a basic reading level. So it's not working. And so our job as teachers is to learn the research, which is what we've done today, learn the best, most effective, fastest way to help students learn to read, and then teach them that way, teach them the brain friendly way. So it's going to be easier for you as a teacher. It's going to be a heck of a lot more fun, and it's going to be a lot easier for your students to learn too.
Exactly, exactly. Well, this was so much fun, and I just cannot wait to have all of our teacher friends out there get this information and put it into practice. So, Malia, thank you so much for being here today, and everyone who is watching, hope you have a great day.